imagine, if you will, if you can, if you have time to spare, David, a deeply complex individual, much like any other human being, who finds himself on the verge of experiencing a meeting that may change his life. A man will reach out his hand for some money, and what David doesn't know is that that will either be one more try or the man's last try. For his spirit is broken. Now imagine, if you will, if you can, if you have time to spare, that you have knowledge over every single detail in David's life, from start to end. You cannot interfere with his free will and freedom of choice, or that of any other human being, but you do have the power to do anything and everything else. You know the man's heart, the man's brain, at a level that even a parent or a lover would be scared to know. So you know, for instance, that having a bird take a dump on his head when he was 6 years old on a particularly hot Thursday afternoon would lead classmates to mock and bully him for a couple of weeks, which would feel like years. It would be an experience that David would forget, but never live down. You know it would drive David to project animosity towards animals, something that would invariably ruin his relationship with his high school sweetheart. That, in turn, would cement his distrust of other people and generate in himself commitment issues. That, in turn, would lead him towards unhealthy relationships all throughout his college years, motivating him to become a workaholic and consequentially worsening his disconnection with other people and developing a disinterest in others' well-beings and feelings. And over all of this, he would still be harboring a very strong dislike for animals. And then that day would come, that moment would come, when a man with a sickly puppy would hold out a hand and ask for a penny. But David would scoff and walk along, not knowing the beggar would take that as a sign it was time to give up forever. Or you could take the bird through another route and change David's early life, one butterfly effect at a time, so that at that one moment, David is married to his high school sweetheart, having grown to love pets as much as she does, so that at such a moment, David's heart is actually moved by the sight of the man and his puppy, and thus does he surrender $1. You did not interfere with David in any direct way. His reactions are his own. His fragilities are his own. Even in scenario A, he could have separated what happened from his impressions of animals, or sought after help. Or someone might have shown up, recognized the problem, helped him work through that issue, but you knew that wouldn't happen, because you know him and all his faults. Now imagine, if you will, if you can, if you have time to spare, 6 billion human beings, almost 7, deeply complex and unique individuals who are still very much alike each other, seeing as their biology is so similar. Imagine you know every single one of them in the manner that you know David, and can discern with the same degree of clarity and detail as you had so far everything about their lives, their hearts and minds, to a level a parent and lover would be scared to know. The butterfly effect is evidently powerful when it comes to human psychology, so imagine what it would be like if you knew and could see everything about it. Could you not find a way to give David strength if he asked you for it? Could you not find a way to improve David's life, mentality, psychology if he asked for it? Would you need any kind of hocus-pocus, snap of a cosmically all-powerful finger to supernaturally change the man's very being? Or would you simply need a nudge here and there with all the right timings? And make it rain over there. Make the car break down over here. Make the bird poop at that specific time. And that being said, what would be your perspective on what would be just or unjust, fair or unfair, if you were so inclined to care? Should you do what he asks? What knowledge would you have of the beggar to be able to tell that the world, or even just the community in that town, wouldn't be better off with a workaholic David and a dead beggar? You'd need to know about them all. You'd need to know everything to make the call, if you were so inclined to care. Now add a little bit to this power of knowledge, if you will, if you can, if you have time to spare. And imagine your knowledge is timeless, So you would know everything before they were even born. You would know all that was possible to accomplish with them and their hearts and minds before planet Earth was even formed. Does your knowledge take everything away from their actions and decisions, since they are still very much their own? Would you be interfering all that often? If you have time to spare, if you can, if you would imagine it, I guess you are not human. For what I just described is very much an intelligence, conscience, omniscience, and you probably do not believe it exists. I am Kuzcopia, and I bid you farewell and happy thoughts. If, and especially, when they're interesting.